their money that we're paying back, that we've not even used it completely, has not been utilized anyhow in Kenya. So I think he's opened another Pandora box, and I would love to see how far this would unfold. I'll leave it at that, Aj, for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I see that we're having more people requesting for, the mic. Let's go by John, then Salah, then Ja Ponji, in that order. John Ochola? Okay, I'll text him. I think he's not able to hear me. Salah, and then Okonkwo, actually, you before Salah. Okonkwo, go, then Salah, then Ja.
Hi, I hope I'm audible.
Loud and clear, please proceed.
So it's evening in Kenya, so good evening, everybody. I hope you're doing fine. Just for an opening remark, I'm going to try and be extremely brief. Now, I think when it comes to what Jimmy has been talking about, we are all focusing on odious debt and the debt that the government has incurred that we can try and classify as odious. But I'd want us to think currently. There's a lot of debt that we are incurring that can also be classified as odious. When it comes to odious debt, it is not something that we just wake up and say, oh, okay, we feel like odious today, so why don't we? There's laws that govern there's laws that govern what makes a debt odious, and it is based on law. But when it comes to that, I'd actually come to say that currently, I would say that Parliament had granted the government the leeway to borrow up to 10 trillion. And right now, our debt is 11.1 trillion. Basic math says that the 1.1 trillion that is on top of the 10 trillion that we have already incurred as debt can be declared as odious, because odious, basically, another word for odious debt is illegitimate debt. Odious debt is illegitimate debt. So if these guys go ahead and borrow money above what the parliament that represents the people, or used to represent the people, has allowed them to borrow, that money that they have borrowed on top of that is illegitimate. So the $1.1 trillion that they have already incurred, we can call that illegitimate or odious debt. That is debt that has been borrowed by the government that has not benefited the people at all. On top of that, the money that they are currently borrowing is not money that is allowed to be borrowed by law. So that is also illegitimate. So if they say that we have ambushed the finance bill and they need to go and borrow money, first of all, they need to go back to Parliament. Parliament needs to ratify the amount on top of the 10 trillion that they can be allowed to borrow. And when they borrow that money on top of the 10 trillion, that is now what we can consider as legitimate debt. But if they go on borrowing without the approval of Parliament, that becomes illegitimate. So on top of that, just a simple other remark that I would like to say is Jimmy has been in government all through. And he has been involved in many of these major deals and major scandals that have occurred, starting from the SGR one. He is rumored to be the broker of the SGR deal. So when Jimmy talks, let us listen, because I think that he has a perspective on this issue that most of us do not know. We don't know the power broking that goes around behind closed doors, but this is somebody that has been involved in all that. So let us listen to him. And finally, let me just say this. I know it might be a bit out of topic, but let me say this. For those of us who are in the country and have been fighting all of this thing, there's this issue that has been coming up. Oh, this one has been involved in government. We don't want his help at all. Let me tell you guys something. Whether these people are clean or not, whether they are involved or not, as long as they are speaking the language that we are speaking, that this president must go, we should accept the help that we are getting. So we cannot throw somebody out. We cannot throw Jimmy out in particular. I see there's been a lot of rhetoric about Jimmy. I feel that it is so unfair for us to throw him out because he has been there previously. But the fact that he is speaking the language that we are speaking now, Ruto must go. I feel that we should let him be a part of us, but we should also try and manage what he does. So the fact that he's been in the system and he's been through this debt thing, he's been one of the power brokers. I think one of today's paper called him one of the most feared oligarchs in the country. What he's speaking should be taken seriously. But when it comes to debt, this issue of odious debt, it's not as easy as we think it is. but also at the same time, we are in a very, very strategic country. Kenya is a very, very strategic country. And I would also like to support what Jelani has said. We are a very strategic country. They might throw us out in the cold, but they cannot do it forever. Thank you much.
Thank you so much. I'm a little bit, well, I understand and I agree with you that we need to listen to people, but we should not also underestimate the power that they have on these things, because that is how, we had the maandamano, but at the same time we had different arrangements. So it's like a two-edged sword, so to say. So that I just wanted to put out there, because for me to know a few things, of course I know them, but I also know the buttons to push, and that is the things he was talking about, the gun and the money. I'm very glad that nobody has ever gotten on TV to tell people how the reign is, and that is somehow just like Game of Thrones. That was really put clearly out there. But that now, let's also think about, yes, we are unfortunately governed by the guns and the money. But then, is he, how can I say, let's not forget the role he could play once, a position comes out, once, let's have such people speaking, but let's also be careful about, the way forward. Yes.
Marge, Marge, a 30 seconds comment. I remember the late Mzee Kibaki, who said, kwani ameamuka akakuwa mwerevu. Did this person just woke up and became smarter than he was? That comment resonates with me from the comment that your last speaker just gave. Thank you.
Welcome. John, take a go. We called you on, but you were not. Yeah. Yes, go on.
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me now? Yes. Thank you. So, mine will be brief also. So, a few years ago, let me just give you a background story. A few years ago, I picked a book, just The Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins. Great book. Kenya is mentioned, but not once did I ever think my country will be IMF and
John, we cannot hear you. But John,
once you take economics is
John, you're having difficulties here getting. Yeah. John, can you hear me? Okay. John, take a go, and then I text James. John, hello? John, try again. We could not hear you, but try again, because I see you've been dropping. Yeah, go on. Okay.
I can't hear
yes,
John.
Please
Can
go.
I go?
3 minutes.
Okay. Thanks, Marge, and everyone in the space. My name is Jeff Wanjigi, and I've been in a lot of spaces. And what I'm bringing in today is the course of action. Wanjigi came on television, and it's not the first time. Wanjigi has been on Spice FM, for those of you who've been watching his interviews. And there are a few things that I would like to say. No one seems to care about the process of getting a loan, especially the external loans, because we all know that the loans that we have as a country, almost 70% are internal and 30% are external debts. That's where the IMF and the rest come in. So why do we have to take loan? We take loan to fill up the deficit that we have in the budget, and we take loan for development purposes, not to cater for the recurrent expenditure. Having said that, what are the laws in the Constitution regarding external loan? Like for IMF to grant Kenya a loan, what does it take, and who is responsible for signing all those documents? That's where we need to start following the money. Otherwise, we'll be going in circles and start start asking ourselves if Jimmy Wanjigi expose is correct or wrong. Most of us have gone through, have taken a step further and double check and verified most of the things we were saying as true, because the data is available on the website of government. So let me continue by saying that apart from this odious debt, as the other speaker had said, we have to blame the Parliament of Kenya 100%, and that's why there's a new hashtag ongoing that we have to dissolve the government. They are responsible for approving unconstitutional debts. As we speak, we are working with the Uhuru Finance Bill. The last finance bill was rejected as this one. Most of these finance bills are getting rejected because lack of participation of the public. There's lack of public participation. And these things are very serious. They are taken to constitutional courts, and they're won. And that's what Jimmy Wanjigi said as the next action plan. If we package all this, and someone has to take blame. Someone is responsible for this, because there is no way the parliament can go against the constitution of Kenya, approved all these loans against the constitution. Having said that, what Jimmy also says resonates well with the former PS Njuguna Ndogo, the former PS for finance. What he said was that we have a lot. Okay, we've been talking about the loan exposure from Jimmy Wanjigi. That is the dubious debts of the loans. But let's also talk about the revenue that we're getting from the tax. The former PS had an expose which seems like no one cares about. He said that most of the revenue that we are getting from tax are not being used correctly. Like, we have a lot of ghost schools and ghost teachers who are workers who are getting paid a lot of billions, millions, if not billions of dollars, and they couldn't even bring in a working government, it should be a witness in a court, But I don't understand how this works, because even Jimmy Wanjigi should be a witness, like in a court, He should be able to be put into, I'm not saying like it's right. It should be put into account. I think that's my submission for now. I'll be listening to others, and thank you so much for your time.
Ja. And I
Thanks.
would like to just remind that we're now doing 3 minutes each, so that at least more people can also get a chance to speak. Thanks for highlighting that you've counter-checked the facts, and the question is really, if they got away with the previous, finance bills, and is there anything that's really going to change, and how are we going to change this? John, I'm going to add you again. I hope you're going to be able to speak. And about dissolving the parliament, these are their power instruments. They're the one to come in and say UDA has these numbers, ODM has these numbers, we use them. So those are actually the weapons there. So, but let's keep the conversation going and see how we are going to do that. How, if they could allow us to, because they don't allow us, but if they're going to allow it, because actually when the Ruto must go thing was going on, I jokingly said, what about if Ruto just decides to sacrifice the MPs and make even the recalling MPs more easier, but he seemed to have chosen another way of working with Raila and that. So I'm looking forward to hearing how this is going to play out. Salah, go as I bring John up.
Okay, thank you, Marge. Thank you, everybody who's in space. Good evening, all. And basically, what I wanted to say is, what we need is a responsible government. There are institutions that are supposed to deal with these borrowings, and why are we borrowing? Why is the country borrowing, and how to deal with it, and for what purposes? There are those institutions which are supposed to be responsible for the kind of borrowing going through the parliament. There is the Auditor General. There are other government institutions which are supposed. We don't responsible government. And we understand that, and that's why there was this problem of Ruto must go, and which may not even is still on there. The only issue maybe I can bring it on board is that now that Raila Odinga and ODM have joined the government, what we are looking for is how are they going to reform this government to do the work of government? What are they going to change with the Ruto government so that things are done accordingly, according to the constitution? Things are done by the institutions which are responsible for it. How can we have a responsible parliament that can, the government can come through and ask the real questions for what purpose they want to borrow for, and that purposes is adhered to, and that it's now the money is put in where it was asked for. In a situation like this, when we are having like this, and then the government tries to, usurp all the powers of all the institutions of this country, or put people in place whom it can use the way they want it, then we will end up having this odious debts and whatever, and this borrowing and those kind of things. And probably some Western powers or other foreign countries, they really want us to be in this kind of a situation so that they can control us. What we ask and what we need is a responsible government, and I don't know. We need what the new addition can do to change some things. And I think we have short time, and we will see. And thank you all. I can see Madge is raising her hand.
Thank you so much, Salah. I was trying to, stick to the 3 minutes. John, let's take a go. Hopefully now you're going to be able to speak.
Thank you so much, Madge, for the patience and the entire team. So yes, as I was mentioning earlier, the barbarians are at the gates. Actually, I think they've torn down the gates. They're inside. And yes, as I was saying, by John Parking's Confessions of an Economic Hitman, and yeah, from the last speaker, from Jelani also, I've had so there is Jimmy Wanjigi is part of the system in this particular way. This is how important this figure is. To bring someone to power in Kenya, Kenya is an important geopolitical country, the Western nation, because of course, access to the sea, political stability, there is that. Of course, from the book, we've had CIA operations in Kenya, so on and so forth. So yeah, from the last speaker, let me just reiterate this. Why don't we have institutions that carry out the mandate of the Constitution? Why do we need private citizens in the likes of Jimmy Wanjigi coming out, who are actually part of the establishment? They're only coming out because the establishment is somehow done with such individuals. So they're coming back and taking a hit at them. It's okay, fine. Mgala muwe, haki yake mpe. In Kenya, we have extractive economic institutions. So by this, what I mean is that our economic institutions are built to serve the elites and the oligarchs, as they're called, I think, in the Soviets or Russia. So these institutions are only there to allow growth at a particular percentage or a particular level, such that the few who are in control of the system, as I said, economics is sovereignty. Whoever controls the economy, as Jim Cavil, the former political advisor to Bill, what do you call this guy? Bill Clinton, said it's about the economy. Stupid. Politics, everything always goes back to the economy. So it's like the multinationals and the IMF. Can they stay back with the odious debt? I doubt. If my interest is in taking possession of the wristband that you have, I will do every single thing to have it. Controlling Kenya is you're controlling a very powerful country in the eastern part of Africa, and in essence, you have access to Asia and the Middle East to a greater extent. So I don't think these guys will back off. It is the citizenry has to rise up, and that's why there was the Ruto must go. It is the entire system, the extractive economic and political institutions. All these guys regrouping, you see the position coming together, the system is shaken. The only reaction they're going to give is come together. This audience that we must listen to Jimmy Wanjigi. Yes, as I said, he's someone who's been in the system, and there's much more this guy knows that he has not yet been able to say. Probably, it's a bluff that is pulling on the system. That you guys, you have to listen to me because I was in those rooms when such discussions were had. Oh, my time is up. Thank you so much, Maj. Yeah, let there be another speaker. But otherwise, the extractive economic institutions that is serving the political elite and the oligarchy. That is the problem.
Thank you, John. I'll circle you back again because I see you have a finance background. We'll need your expertise too. But I'm trying to just, make sure that people speak fast and then we can go the second round, another 3 minutes each. And Nonini, welcome to the mic. Take a go.
Yes. Hi, Marge. How are you doing? Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I just wanted to chime into the conversation. And I have a different outlook of this whole thing is that how do we empower like our people, Kenyans, especially wale wako mashinani, so that they're able to understand what odious debt means. You see, most of them they're out in campaigns, and whenever like anything happens, you can see the president always runs mashinani anapanda juu ya magari because he speaks to. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. Dennis, please mute your mic. Dennis, mute your mic. Let me mute Dennis. Kindly proceed.
Yeah, so my point is, as we are looking at solutions on how to get this odious debt thing to be worked on, how do we speak to the mashinani people to understand it? Because if these people don't understand it, tunaachiliwa tu as the people on Twitter or the.
I think we lost him. Can you hear him? Jelani, can you hear him?
I can't hear him personally.
Yeah, he's disappeared.
He was saying a very important thing about grassroots. Nonini, say that again. We cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Yeah. So my point was, I hope you can hear me now. Mnanisikia fiti?
Tunakusikia. Yeah.
Yeah, how do we get this information or this civic education to mashinani? You understand? We come to all these spaces and we speak, which is brilliant. But you realize this is not getting to watu wa huko in the grassroots people. And that's why President Sayota anakimbiaga huko mashinani anapanda juu ya gari because anajua anaongelesha hao watu. Hao watu wengi wao, this information is not getting to them. And Jimmy has been speaking about this for a long time. Amekuwa huko Vibes, FM, Spice. I've been seeing him akiongea constantly. But it's just up to this a couple of weeks or a month ago is when people have actually picked it up because of the information being shared around the X spaces. But how does this information trickle down to watu wa mashinani? And this is a strategy that is being used by government to control the people. People are not empowered. And it's strategic, and they don't want people to be empowered. That's why people don't have jobs in Kenya. Watu wengi hawana majob, and they're not going to create these jobs. And that's why there are many slums. People are not trying to get rid of the slums. As long as Kenyans.
Yeah, I think we lost him again. I don't know, something with the network, probably.
Can you hear me, Marge?
Yes, we can hear you now. We lost you for some seconds there, but now we can hear you. Kindly proceed.
Yeah, so we have to look at this thing like if the government will not empower the people, how do we empower them, even if we can't do it monetarily with knowledge, like the proper knowledge, so people understand some decisions being made by their leaders or their governor or their representative who's an MCA affects them directly. Mnanielewa? That's just my point I wanted to pass across. And thank you. And Paul for the interruption. I don't know what's happening.
No, not a problem. That's a very good point you put across, because I remember during the campaigns we had to go, we formed some WhatsApp groups in the village. Now, but I think Jelani is doing some civic education. I don't know to what extent that is going to reach the grassroots level, but that's really a point not to be neglected, because anytime actually I wanted to have a laugh is that when I had an political opinion, then I would then share it with my late mom, and her opinion of it would be completely different. And you have to remember she has serious influence in the village, in the town, in the women group. So what I know is A, and might be at that point right, but she knows the B, which is right in other aspects, but her point is going to be spread more to the people who are even going to vote than my point from where I am. So really, that's a very good point there. So probably later, Nonini is going, Jelani is going to chime in and let us know how the civic education is going to really to be spread to the.
I could respond to that
Yes,
now.
please. Yes, yeah.
So one of the things that we found when we were doing our analysis of the conversations that we were having on social media is a lot of people think they know what the law says, but they have no idea. Another thing we found is that Kenyans hate to read. So even when people were trying to break down the finance bill and putting out tweets and threads and stuff, people were still not reading that information. But when there would be a graphic, I think somebody did a graphic, the people shall, and did some t-shirts that really drummed up what Article 1 says. So our goal with our civic education is to turn all this information, whether it's information that's contained in the Constitution of Kenya, information that's in the Penal Code, information that's in like the public debt audit that Wanjigi did, convert that into graphics and then translate it into 40 languages. What that will mean is that someone in Ushago, a boda boda guy at the heart of Mokoroini, can have his Kikuyu booklet that tells him what the law says, that even breaks down a concept as complicated as odious debt. Like anaweza elewa, oh, by the way, hawa watu walienda wakachukua loans wakakula. Being able to bring it down to actual images, take out all the legal jargon, and allow people down at word level to understand what we are talking about. Because up at Twitter, we are intellectuals, or we all have many degrees, we speak big English. But like you're right, people in Ushago, they have no idea. And I think part of why our movement failed, let me not say our movement failed, but why we did not have the impact we intended is because people on the ground, they don't know what we are fighting for. They just know, si mulikuwa mnataka finance bill iondolewe na sasa imeondolewa. They don't know what the appropriations bill means. So being able to break down all those concepts into a language people can understand, into graphics, and disseminating this information, that is the goal of the civic education that we are doing. And hopefully, I know that's not enough. We've seen what Morara is doing with the videos where he goes to the ground and talks about projects that were launched that were never done. We've seen what Mushiri is doing with his, I think he's been translating I think he translated the finance bill. I don't know what else he's translating into Kikuyu and other languages. We've seen Kimanzi as well. He had 2 or 3 videos that he was getting translated into some languages. My work is not enough. I think everybody needs to step up. If we can go to the churches, we can go to the marketplace. Kwa ule mama mboga na kuzia carrots, just like talk to them, explain to them in Sheng or whatever language they understand. Each and every one of us has to do a level of civic education in our spheres of influence, so that we are all saying Ruto must go. Everybody knows why we're saying it. And we also, by doing that, we get rid of this Mtuwetu narrative. Because there's people still in Central who think that because Rigathi is deputy president, we are benefiting. There's people who think that, when it comes down to the ballot in 2027, that you could just vote for yourself and that is okay. So we need civic education, political education, and that's the scope of what I'm doing and the scope of what other people are doing. And hopefully that gets us closer to a liberated Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julani. And so the point about grassroots education is really important. And probably we're gonna, because
for 1 minute.
Yes.
Yeah, so not to take away from what you are doing, Jelani and Maj. Also, you guys are doing a lot of civic education, and we really appreciate you for that, for holding these X spaces. Just one last point is, like the other day, Elon and Trump had an X space, and it had about 1.2 million people listening. But you have to understand, Uku US, the internet penetration is like what? It's like 96% of the population of the whole the US. So let's look at Kenya. What's the internet penetration? I think it's about 36 to 40%. That's what I read somewhere online. But who's responsible for making sure that Kenyans have internet? Is it the private sector? Is it the government? How do we hold these people accountable? Because if these things start penetrating uko mashinani, that's how information will start flowing. Thank you so much, and you guys are doing a good job.
Thanks, Sumini. What I was going to say is, like, when we were doing the campaigns, the 2022 campaigns, we had ideas of people actually having WhatsApp groups for the villages, because I think given the fact that we use the M-Pesa payment as a payment module, our villages actually have those phones, because they don't have the internet and things like that. But still, we can still find a way of trying to reach them at the grassroots level, not only online, but just through. It's going to take a lot of time. But I want to, at this point, warn that the government has already started buying influence through Kindiki. And that is how all of a sudden, although it's not even his mandate, he's introducing some money for the village elders, because he knows, and that is the point we're speaking about here. We want to reach them, but he's reaching them already. He's buying influence through money. So when you're going to talk to them later, you're talking to them about people who are actually already giving them money. They used to be pesa yawaze, you know. So, and it's a point we need to look into, but we also have to understand that the government has already started campaigning and is buying influence using our taxes and the influences they get from us, putting them in position. So let's put more effort. Okie dokie. Now, John, I'll give you more time. I give you only 3 minutes, but I'll round up again because the previous speakers had more. Mukuru, Fred, and then Kenya opinion. Mukuru? Mukuru Gen Z. Okay, then let's go with Fred Matiang'i for President 2027. Okay, if you're not able to speak, let's go to Kenyan opinion. Paul Kush, also not speaking. So Mzalendo, we're gonna go next. But Fred Matiang'i, I want to say at this point that Matiang'i himself was really more of a dictator, whom we do not want to give more power to oppress Kenyans. So Kenyan opinion, go then before and now everyone is speaking. Just 1 minute, I finish.
Allow me to go faster.
And who's speaking now?
Kenyan opinion.
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Now, it is very good that we're having these kinds of discussions. And I want to talk about 3 of the issues and discussion. And the first thing I want to talk about is the debt issue. And it's becoming very clear that as a country, our problem is not debt. In fact, over time, I have come to realize that as a republic, debt is just an actually discussing the real issues that have been plaguing us as a nation. And all those issues are practically one and the same summation of corruption and the looting of public resources and our natural resources. Because, in fact, even if we left the Jimmy Wanjigi story out and said, yeah, let's say we have a debt, but what should we do? If the government of the Republic of Kenya wanted to pay our debt today, it wouldn't even need a lot of them to do a lot of things, because it's becoming very clear that we have enough resources, natural resources, from precious stones to gold and diamonds and all those other kinds of stuff. We are capable of running our economy without all these debts. But they use it as a narrative to keep us blinded and to shut us up. Every time we say we are not doing well economically, they say, yeah, we have a debt, we need to pay. So it's very clear to me that we don't have a debt issue. So then the question becomes, what is it that we need to do about that whole thing? Because it's a narrative. What should we do to stop it? So the first thing we need to do is tell them that now we know we don't have a debt problem. And we know that there has been illegal things like illegal mining activities that have been going on. They should be able to cater for all our needs. We know there have been mineral resources, all these things, they should be able to cater for us. So stop pushing that narrative to us. Yes, we know all those things. The debts are odious. We don't even owe anybody a thing. And even if we did, it is not substantial, because if debt is a problem, then why are they still taking more debts? Even this very year, we have taken more debts. And even the president promised that because we have failed the finance bill, he's going to take 1 trillion. Yeah. So if that is a problem, then why are they talking about taking more debts? Will you pile a problem over another? That is the first, my first take. The second issue is the issue of inclusivity and including everyone to the narrative and on our demonstrations. The thing is, we want everybody, even Jimmy Wanjigi, from all corners and all quarters. Welcome to the meal. Welcome to the family. But we have to be very careful, because these are the same people. Remember, as a student of history, how Jomo Kenyatta was gotten into the Mau Mau story while he never was actually a part of it. But he came and took control of the whole narrative. And today, 60 years down the line, we're still speaking of the same problem. So yes, I don't have a problem with every one of these people coming to the table. But we have to be very careful what seat we are giving them. I don't have a problem with people like Jimmy Wanjigi coming and joining the hall, but let them stay at the back seats, because we don't want them coming and take control of the narrative, because these people are narrative pushers, and they push narratives, take control of the narratives like Raila has always done, and then they end up conning the people. And by the time we realize it, we have lost the whole plot. And this is part of what actually made the protest to start losing momentum. So we cannot allow these people to come and take control of our story. We have a goal, and the goal is good governance that works for the people, and make sure that everybody is able to get food on the table, basic needs. That is all we're fighting for, a government that works for the people. So we must focus on the goal. How we achieve it is part of the process, and we cannot achieve it if we allow hijackers to come and take part of it. And I do suspect highly that people like Jimmy Wanjigi are being used as hijackers of the process. I know all these things they are coming out to tell us, they are true, and they are going to be very helpful in digesting.
Could you please land? We want to try to do 3 minutes each so that each speaker can speak. Thanks. Back to you.
Okay, let me just wrap it up. I think we need to allow them all in, but we also need to be very careful how and what we take from them. Again, let us try and do civic education as much as possible. Whenever you're talking with anybody, just share the information. Educate one person, educate another, and this story is all going to be out there to everybody slowly by slowly, and we are going to be there. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Kenyan Opinion. I'd like to then give John to get his other next 3 minutes, because he got less. But I want to just point out the point that Kenyan Opinion is saying that Jimmy should be a backbencher. He cannot be, he will not be. He already has Uhuru Kenyatta in his pocket. He has Ruto in his pocket. He has Raila in his pocket. So let's talk to him while knowing that he's actually a kingmaker. And he confessed what people saw in him that would say, now Jimmy can do this. He did not disclose everything. But let's not forget that he's not our normal private citizen. John, then Mzalendo.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, John. Now let's kindly focus on the solutions as we try to close at the top of the hour. Back to you, John.
Okay, thank you. Allow me just to read. I have Orwell's 1984, just to concur with Jelani and Nonini. If there was hope, it must lie in the prose, because only there, in those forming disregarded masses, 85% of the population of Oceania, could the force to destroy the party ever be generated. The party could not be overthrown from within. Jimmy is part of the establishment. Its enemies, if it had any enemies, had no way of coming together or even identifying one another. Even if the legendary brotherhood existed, as just possibly it might, it was inconceivable that its members could ever assemble in large numbers than twos or threes. Rebellion meant a look in the eyes and an inflection of the voice, at the most, an occasional whispered word. But the pros, if only they could somehow become conscious of their own strength, would have no need to conspire. They need only to rise up and shake themselves like a horse shaking off flies. If they choose, they could blow the party into pieces tomorrow morning. Surely, sooner or later, it must occur to them to do it. George Orwell, 1984. I'll finish up with this. I know we've said we want solutions to the problem, but I've been trying for the last few months, ever since we've been having the struggles of the country, to understand where the genesis of the problem. Because if we don't have proper diagnosis of the problem of the disease, we might be treating particular symptoms without ever reaching the goal. So the year is 1963. Kenya gets independence. What happens to Kenya and most sub-Saharan African countries, and you look at Southern America, other than some countries in sub-Saharan Africa, for example, the likes of Botswana, the system that the British created, the institutions that they built at independence were inherited by our forefathers. They never took umbrage at the kind of exploitation that the people had, because it benefited them. It did benefit them and their family and their colleagues at a particular point, not knowing they're creating a monster that could be exploited later on. I am a believer, yes. Might be, edging towards conspiracy in this, but I do believe there are powers at work. But these powers, I mean corporations, the multinational. And still, yes, we can't discard what Jimmy is saying, but at the same time, be careful when part of the establishment comes out. We should not entreat. Be careful when the devil entreats you. No matter how gallant the party is, oh, be careful. Give no room to the devil. This is the establishment coming out and saying and bringing out all these things. And David Lee said something. I will end at this point. Not much, just something we can think about. I'm still reading, still trying to establish what is and what is not. David Lee tweeted and said, how can he be found when he staged his own abduction? David, we know him to be someone who, is with his rhetoric and all that. There's something he knows. Being an economic advisor to the president, there is something he's privy to about Jimmy Wanjigi, that the government knows where this man hides. They just can't go to him because they're creating a character. It's like a movie. There's a director. You're trying to make Michael Scott to become the best character in all of sitcom. So what do? Give a little bit of nuggets, make him the hero. Yes, listen to him. But I know if the system is coming after you, if the establishment is against you, they'll crush you. That I know. Again, Kenya is an important geopolitical country. I don't think the West will let us slide or get into economic oblivion. They'll always try to get us out, but at what cost? We must ask ourselves. The Western world is going to come to rescue us. We've seen IMF already meeting John Mbadi, all the SES. We saw Meg Whitman meeting with the miner, for pun intended. We must be careful. We must be really, really careful. We are treading on murky waters, but we cannot stop. We must do we must do that which we can. Thank you so much, Maj, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, John, for that. It was really, really very good. The submission there, we need to be very careful. I see that Willis has joined us. Welcome to this space. Directly going to you, I'm going to give you the mic. What's your opinion and what's going on in the expose with Jimmy? What do you have to say? What are just the first of all your opinion, and then the way forward, what we need to really go, because we are on solutions. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Maj, for inviting me and allowing me to speak. First, what I want to say that it's quite unfortunate for someone to insinuate that Jimmy Wanjigi can organize whatever has happened to him. I'm his lawyer, and we're in court. I saw his family being attacked. I witnessed Maina being attacked by more than 10 police officers who are fully armed. Wamboi was slapped in the house. The wife was slapped in the house, pinned on the floor. I mean, if somebody will insinuate that all those acts of attacks, I spent 2 days in that home. My car was robbed. My wallet that had my debit cards, my money, US dollars 3,000, 5,000 Kenya shillings in the car armrest, my LSK card, they were taken by the police. I mean, we should not try to allow diversionary tactics when an injustice is being meted out on an individual. You don't have to like Jimmy Wanjigi, but at least give him his due respect and his fundamental rights. The second thing I want to say is this, and also before I conclude that, if Jimmy Wanjigi is capable of staging all of this, and David Ndii saying what he says, nothing will have stopped them from arresting even all those officers. Someone who can stage an attack on his own home, where at one given time there were more than 500 police officers from different contingents, from the ATPU to administration police to regular police to DCI to NIS. And ultimately, there was even a presidential jammer, that brown Prado, that is normally part of the advance team for the president, that disconnects all communications. At some point, when we were trying to drive out of the compound, all our car keys were not turning on. I didn't even know that that is possible with a jammer. They had disconnected all electronic transmissions from cars that use electronic keys. So, I mean, it's actually unbelievable that someone would think Jimmy will organize all of that or have the capacity to organize that kind of atrocity against himself, his family, his friends, and his own lawyer. And today, even as we speak, 4 members of Bunge la Mwananchi Jacaranda have been held in police custody to date. They've gotten custodial orders against them, and they're trying to charge them for the fabricated offenses. It will take an extreme genius to organize and coordinate with all those agencies that now it's reduced to David Ndii saying that he's organized all of this. But fundamentally, the most important thing I wanted to say is this. Whatever Jimmy has spoken about, he didn't start speaking about it last week or this week. When Uhuru Kenyatta was still president in the month of July before the elections, Jimmy Wanjigi presented his own forensic audit of the national debt. And he presented it in a paid up advert that was aired on NTV, detailing what, in his view, were debts which were taken in a manner that did not comply with the laws of Kenya. At the time, people dismissed whatever he was saying. Some say that maybe it's just a disgruntled candidate who has been blocked from participating in the election. But he was saying this is the problem we are going to face. At that time, he was saying you are spending 60% of your revenue to debt finance. Now we are almost at 80% of your tax revenue going to debt finance. And he was saying this is going to be a problem way in the future. And from that July, before the election of 2022, to date,
I cannot hear you. Can anyone else hear him?
No.
Yeah, I think we lost him. Willis, we lost you. Okay, let me text him that we cannot hear him. As we wait for him to come back, I think, wait. Mukuru, are you able to speak? Because if you're not able to speak, then I'll remove you from the panel and bring on somebody else because you've been on the panel the whole time. Mukuru, then Fred Matiangi, are you able to speak? Because otherwise we free those 2 mics as we wait for Willis to continue. Okay, Willis, kindly proceed if you can now speak because we couldn't hear you. Okay, let me remove this from the speaker. Otherwise, Mzalendo, take a go as we wait for him. Okay.
he's done his math.
Thank you so much,
Hold on.
Maj. Am I
Yeah,
audible?
hold on, Mzalendo. Willis, we were not hearing you the last 1 minute or 30
Okay,
seconds.
sorry.
So
Let me just repeat.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what Jimmy has done he's gone back to our debt books and he's looked at Section 15 of the PFM Act. You only take debt for project finance if you're doing a development project. The only time the law allows you to borrow a debt for recurrent expenditure is only a pegged percentage of not more than 5% of the previous year's audited accounts, which, if you look at the math, it looked at our debt in the last. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can
Okay,
hear
I can
you. Yeah.
continue. If you look at our debt portfolio in the last 13 years, Jimmy has said, look at all the debts that were taken. What project did they finance? And where did Parliament approve for that debt to be taken? And that is what Jimmy says is what is called odious debt. That where you find a debt, and for example, is picked on domestic debt. If you pick on domestic debt, these banks borrowing, lending money to government, which project are they financing with these bills and bonds? Where is the parliamentary approval for that particular borrowing to be taken? And he says it's not there. If that be the case, then the debt that has been taken through bills and bonds is odious. It's illegal debt. And why are they doing it? I mean, those are questions that people can deal with without trying to distract Kenyans to start discussing the character of Jimmy Wanjigi, the messenger. He simply posed the issue. Let whoever has alternative facts bring them forward and say, we've taken this much domestic debt. This is where Parliament anchored or approved that debt to be taken. This is the project which that debt financed. If that does not exist, then all of us will agree that the bulk of our domestic debt, in fact, all of it in the last 5 years or so, even more, has been odious. It has been illegally taken. And you ask, why are they taking it illegally? And if you agree, if you notice, debt is taxed in advance. Because the debt you took this year will be paid with the tax collection of next year, the year after. So why are they taking debt without following the laid down procedures? Is it convenience? Is it peradventure? Is it that somebody wants to steal the tax in advance by taking this debt in the manner that does not comply with our constitution? He has done what we call a balanced uh, balance, primary balance of our revenues vis-a-vis expenditures in the last 13 years, removing what we'll call as payments for debt finance. And he says, if you take all the revenue that the Kenyan people collected and declared by KRA and posted in the Kenya Gazette by the Treasury, we collected in that period 13.3 trillion on revenue. Then he has looked at all the expenditures minus debt. What in our books we spent this money on. Our entire expenditure minus debt was 14.6 trillion. And taking a debt is normally meant to plug in the deficit. And Jimmy says, if all your money that you collected was 13.3 trillion, all your expenditures minus debt was 14.6 trillion, your deficit was 1.3 trillion. Anybody can do that math. And the documents that he's using to calculate these figures are publicly available. They are documents published by the Central Bank, National Treasury, KRA. He says your deficit was 1.3 trillion. So in that period of 10 years, if you wanted to borrow money, because debt is meant to plug a deficit, what is missing, it was only